Good evening. This is the Common Council meeting Monday, January 25th, 2021. It's 6:02 p.m. We're in the council chambers. Proper notice was given to the public and to the media. Teresa, would you call roll?
Christopher Frederickson. Thomas Barnett. Here.
There we go.
Here.
Andrew Larson.
Here.
Carrie Michalowski. Here. Thomas Kelly.
Here.
Gerald Anderson. David Holt.
Here.
Eileen Daniel.
Here.
Ryan Rossing.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. This is now time for public comments as received by the mayor, city clerk, or council members. I'd like to start with anybody from the council. Did anybody receive anything from the public they want to speak about? Eileen does. Go ahead, Eileen.
Just shortly, I did receive an email from a constituent. She did not request it be read at council, but I will email it to you to be placed into the public record.
Okay, thank you. We have Bill Freudenberg on the list to speak from the public.
Bill Freudenberg, 323 Marshall Street, Rhinelander. Being a former city council member, being a former Oneida County Board of Supervisor, the question I have tonight is discussion last council meeting with the Oneida County Animal Shelter. I'm just finding this hard to believe that this is in closed session tonight. That you have a contract here that you were willing to discuss in open session last meeting. And even though some of the language was not agreed upon because of communication, but I'm just floored that this is in closed session tonight. And I really do believe that the contents of this contract should be in public, because you did discuss part of it last week. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is, sorry if I mispronounced your last name, Eric Rampala.
Yes, my name is Eric Rampala, and I'm here to speak about sulfide mining. I've been here before. My partner is Carl Fate. And we've spoke to you before. We thought we would, I'm not sure how the city council works. Normally when we present to a town, we're on an agenda and then we're capable to have discussion with the board. So we'll give our presentation again as a public comment, and if there are any questions. But we would like you to consider the resolution that I don't believe I have to pass out, as I've sent all of you emails with the copy of our resolution, our cover letter, and some other information that might help you understand the situation a little better. Carl and I both have done volunteer work with the Protect a Willow group when it came to the Lynn mine, and we've also done follow-up checks on the Shepke drilling this summer. Our concern is that sulfide mining is not an acceptable activity in a water-rich area, such as where we live and play here, up here in the Northwoods with all our water. And it's not that we are particularly against all mining, but metallic sulfide mining, which is the most dangerous type of mining in a water-rich area, we don't believe is safe. It's a great risk to our water. Along with metallic sulfide mining comes acid mine drainage. That's the part of the sulfide mining part of it. When you crush sulfide rock and it's exposed to water and air, it makes sulfuric acid, which allows heavy metals to leach into your water, your ground. That's the general description of what acid mining drainage is. There has never been a metallic sulfide mine that did not cause pollution. There is no example of one that has not caused pollution. With the change in our legislation, with the enactment of Act 134, many protections have been removed for the counties and the towns and the local residents to protect themselves from this type of mining. The main reason for Act 134 was to simplify and make it easier for mining to occur. That wasn't a stated objective for that enactment. What we lost when we adopted Act 134 was the prove it first provision, which was very simple for all people to understand. It was in English. It said, show us that you've had a mine open for 10 years and closed for 10 years that did not have a pollution issue. If you could show us that, that would be one hurdle you could pass to have a mine. The mining companies could not come in with that because they had no example where they could pass that test. They needed the laws changed, hence the laws were changed. So we want you to understand that the protections for people up here and in all over Wisconsin are much reduced. And we're trying to get the towns and of Oneida County on board to understand what protections they lost and try and get more protections in place. Our resolution calls for the repeal of Act 134. That's a big lift. I mean, that would have to go all across Wisconsin for that to be adapted, but we feel right here in Oneida County, since Oneida County is one of the main targets of metallic sulfide mining at this time, since we already have had the Lynn proposal and now dealt with the Shepke drilling. So that's why this area in particular is a hot spot for this. And we're looking for all the towns of Oneida County and the city council here to adopt this resolution to tell the state of Wisconsin that we're not happy with this new act. We would like more protections in place, and it's a start to where we can gain back some protection from this industry. I understand that Rhinelander would not have a mine in the city, but you also have to understand if the city does not stand with the towns and gain more protection, that the town just upriver from you could have a mine, not at their choice, and that water running downstream to you would cause water issues. I understand this town has PFAS issues. So I'm asking you to consider if this is the type of water issues you want to look forward coming ahead. This is something that you can get out in front of and try and protect yourself, not like the issues that you've inherited that now you have to try and clean up. So I'm asking you to be foresighted and, like I said, and this resolution, this doesn't mean if your town or your city wants to have a mine, you can have a mine, but you should have some control on what is going on in your town, in your county, and that's what we're asking for. We're asking for more control. I think Carl could probably talk more about some of the, at the county level, what might be able to be changed.
Thus far, we've had,
Excuse me, Carl. Would you just state your name and address for the record, please?
sure, Carl A. Fate, 6824 Highway 8 West. I live in the town of Crescent, just north of Crescent Lake Boat Landing. I've been involved in the mining issue since the early 1980s. To date, we've had 5 towns that have passed this resolution, and I did bring a copy of it along with the cover letter in case you do not have that. I also made up some information about the referendum question that was on the November 6th, 2018 ballot. It was regarding the Lynn deposit in the western part of Oneida County, and it asked the voters whether they would approve of having that particular spot leased on the county forest land, and there was a significant vote against that. It was 62.6% of the people that voted on that question voted no. And it's significant because it was a question that many people were very interested in, so there was a high voter turnout in that election, and a lot of people voted on that issue. The other thing to keep in mind is that the town of Lynn has, I believe, only 86 residents that are voters, registered to vote. 85 of them voted, and only 10 of them voted in favor of the referendum question. And the most important thing about that is that it was designed to be about a particular spot in Oneida County, way over in the western part. And despite that fact, the majority of people collectively in the eastern part of Oneida County still voted no on that referendum question. And I also brought some statistics on that. I did not put the referendum question on here, but I did email it to everyone. But this is the tally of the votes. It's the tally of the votes and also the turnout in each town.
Can we just interpose, because we have to limit this to what affects the city of Rhinelander, not the county. So could you limit your discussion to what affects the city of Rhinelander?
Okay.
You know, I mean, we've got most of the information. You've already sent it to us, and we got a long agenda tonight. So if you just talked about the city, we'd really appreciate it.
Sure. One of the repercussions of Act 134 is that Oneida County has a new mining ordinance. It's a mining ordinance that is not protective of our county. There were a number of specific protections that were eliminated. So that ordinance is basically designed to grease the skid to have a mining district in Oneida County. Smelters, refiners, waste material from outside of the county being dumped in our county, those are prohibitions that are eliminated in that ordinance. So what the city of Rhinelander has to ask is, does the ordinance for mining in Oneida County have an impact on Rhinelander or not? I believe it does, and that's part of the resolution. You are part of Oneida County, so and what are you going to have if you have a mining district here, a smelter and a refiner, and having waste material from, say, over at Crandon shipped over here and dumped in the county? So I believe it's an issue that Rhinelander should certainly be concerned about.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
I just wanted
Okay, thank you. This is also later on the agenda, talking about the sulfide mine, so if there's any council member, when that agenda item comes up that has any questions, I think we could briefly entertain that at that point. Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public in attendance tonight that didn't get a chance to sign up that wants to speak during the public comment? Okay, seeing nobody, we're moving forward. The mayor is not here tonight, so there's no mayor's comments. Next is presentations, and first on the list is the virtual tree tour from Tom Giroux, City Forester.
Thank you. I promised Zach that I'd do this in 5 minutes or so.
Tom, before you start, I want the record to reflect that Gerald has appeared on the video so that Teresa has that. I'm sorry, Tom.
No problem.
Thank you.
So thank you for appointing me as the city forester. It is a volunteer position. I don't get paid, just letting people know that. But we had a virtual tree tour for the tree board. I condensed it down and made it as short as possible. The head picture here is actually a forest in the city of Rhinelander. It is the Homebow Natural Area, which is behind Taylor Park or the new Riverview Hall. It is an excellent example of old growth forests right here in the city of Rhinelander. Next slide. And I'd encourage you to visit. We have a lot of great forested neighborhoods in the city, and we should celebrate that and maintain those. This is Hillside Court on the west side, and really great trees. I wanted to talk here briefly about the benefits trees have to the urban environment. They conserve energy by reducing heating and cooling cost. They extend the life of our asphalt. We're currently replacing much of our asphalt, and the shading of that asphalt by trees makes it last longer. It filters airborne contaminants and waterborne contaminants. It does consume carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases. It's great for stormwater and reducing runoff and also protecting groundwater. So trees have lots of benefits, and we should take good care of them. Next slide. We have a great tree plan that was done in 2011. It's 10 years old, but the information in it is really good, and it's the basis for which the tree board will be working from. Next slide. It's a little difficult to see, but every little yellow dot on that map represents an area where we can plant more trees. Even though we have great forested neighborhoods, we have lots of neighborhoods where we could use a tree or two, and I was just talking to Terry Williams. His neighborhood is on my list for tree planting. So, next slide. Here's some pictures of those neighborhoods. Central School. There's some great spots for tree planting. When they redid their school, they lost a tree or two, and there's some great spots right next to that school. Imagine dropping your kid off, having some shade to park in, or having the playground shaded also. Next one is North Stevens Streets. One thing I didn't talk about when I talked about the benefits is trees in shopping districts improve shopping. They attract more people. People linger longer and stay longer and spend more money, frankly. And there's been lots of good studies that the U.S. Forest Service has done on that. Think about our downtown, the little pocket park, the plaza by the ice cream stand, and how people linger there and have a latte and enjoy the afternoon. On the bottom right is Lenox Street, just an example of a neighborhood that could use some more trees in the boulevard. And last but not least is West Kemp Street. A lot of entrances to cities have trees in their boulevards entering the city. Next slide. So this is in Wausau on Stewart Avenue, where I'm sure many of you have driven, and really great artwork along with trees. And again, that's the entrance to their city. So that's one of the things we want to look at, is having some trees at the entrance. Next slide. All right, so now we're going to change gears and talk about some of the challenges we have. So this is the Wabash Street neighborhood in Ryan's district. It was subject to road repairs and sewer replacement last year, and we lost a lot of trees. This is a before picture. Next slide. Another before picture showing the neighborhood before the street project, and then the next picture. So that's the same view afterwards, and you can see the tree removal. We have to replace our infrastructure and update it, but we also have to plan to replace those trees at the same time. And this project was, because I walk in this neighborhood most days, and this project was what motivated me to strike the tree board and start working on this, is because we have to have some kind of mechanism to replace those trees. Next slide, this shows them side by side. One of the things I wanted to point out here is when we did this project, we widened the street because our streets are awfully narrow. And you can see on the bottom left, the boulevard is 8 feet, really great place for trees. And on the upper right, you can see that the boulevard went down to 5 feet. Still room for trees, though. 5 feet is the minimum you need. Next slide. Downtown, many of you heard my Arbor Day presentation about this beautiful elm tree that we lost right outside City Hall. It's one of the issues, again, that we face. Dutch elm disease took this. We lost a lot of ash trees, over 100 ash trees citywide to emerald ash borer. And then downtown, we lost a few trees to vandalism and just snow plowing. All these need to be replaced at some point. We're just digging our whole deficit. Next slide. So this is what I think we should be looking for. Again, just think about the property values on these homes. Having trees in the boulevard is really important. Cooling those homes, providing livable neighborhoods, that kind of stuff. So again, Elm Court in the courthouse district. Next slide. Back to the plan. The plan calls for us to plant 83 trees per year to replace all those diseased trees. And then we do take down an additional 25 to 30 trees that are hazard trees or trees that are at the end of their life cycle. That's normal. And so since 2011, we haven't done much tree planting. Many of you know about Bruce Carlson Funeral Home planted 100 elm trees. We did do that, but there's been 10 more years where we haven't planted much of anything. So we're digging ourselves a hole deeper and deeper. Like I said, the plan calls for 83 trees per year, and that's about at the cost of $15,000. As you know, I have applied for grants, 2 different grants, and I'm going to continue to do that. I'm not asking for anything tonight. I'm just giving you a heads up that we got to start thinking about how to budget for this. Last slide. Well, it was just another picture of the home bowl. And like I said, we have a lot of great trees. We should celebrate the trees we have and look forward to working with you to make sure that we find the resources to keep our urban forest in check. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Questions? You got a busy schedule, but can I take a few?
Go ahead, Carrie.
I'm just wondering if citizens want to donate a tree. Is that possible?
We are working on a mechanism to do that. We're working with the foundation, but that's probably not going to work out. So I'll be working with Zach and probably Wendy to figure out a way to do that. We have some trees are already being offered for donation. The Zambone family offered a tree in memory of Carrie, so that was nice. And we'll incorporate that into the downtown project. We hope to plant trees down Brown Street using a lot of the service organizations, Rotary, Lions, that kind of stuff. So we do want to make sure that we look for all the sources of money to help stretch the city budget further. So it's not all going to be back on the backs. But when we do a street project that's worth millions of dollars, $2,000 or $3,000 in trees to replace the ones that are removed and put the neighborhood back the way it was.
Right.
I
was
think
just
justified.
thinking in the memorial.
Correct.
Some folks might want to do that.
If you remember, I donated the tree out front here in front of City Hall. So yeah, we hope to have actually a mechanism to do that. once we have the mechanism in place, then we can advertise it and start accepting those donations. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, next, Oneida County Humane Society. Would you be able to just state your name?
Sure.
So we have that for the record?
Yes, it's
Thanks.
Carla Ortman.
Thank you.
My name is Carla Ortman, and I am the board president for the Oneida County Humane Society. OCHS has been providing animal control services for the city of Rhinelander since July of 2012, when OCHS assumed full management and operation of the former Rhinelander Animal Shelter. The mutually agreed upon service contract and compensation of the last 8 years has included the following services. First, shelter staff is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to aid law enforcement and the health department with incidents, concerns, and complaints involving domestic animals. Examples may include a vehicle accident where there is an animal in the car and the people are taken to the hospital by ambulance, a house fire where homeowners are displaced and need their pets cared for, or an animal hoarding, welfare, or neglect cases, or removing animals from a home where the owner has died. If someone has found a stray pet, they can contact OCHS for help. Lost pets are cared for by staff at the Humane Society until they are reclaimed by their owners. The animals are provided housing, food, and even medical care if required during their stay. Found pets are listed on social media to help get them back home. If a pet is not reclaimed, it is made available for adoption, and staff works conscientiously to place the animal with a family where it will thrive. Our staff receives calls about dogs or cats that have been hit by cars and either injured or killed. An injured animal will be cared for. A deceased animal is removed from the road. In both cases, staff will check the animal for a microchip, and if one is found, will attempt to notify owners. At the very least, information can be shared on social media in hopes of reaching the owner. If someone's dog or cat bites another person, OCHS provides a low-cost option for the pet owners to meet state-required rabies quarantine. Finally, all of the dogs, cats, and rabbits that come into our care are spayed or neutered prior to placement into a new home. When the city operated the shelter, they did so strictly for animal control. In the packet emailed to you last Wednesday afternoon, one page shows what the city budgeted for expenses the year before the transition to OCHS started. We wanted you to see what it cost for animal control 10 years ago and what it costs for us to operate as a humane society now. We also showed you what it has cost the city for the years leading up to 2021 using our services. Rhinelander has always been the biggest user of OCHS, as you can see by the intake numbers also included in the packet. We depend greatly on the donations of our supporters. We fundraise and seek out grant opportunities to further meet our budget needs. We want to grow and help even more animals and the communities we serve. We do not ask the city for funds to do this, and we never have. We only want to be paid for the services outlined in the agreement. The amount specified in our budget documents last August was $40,950 per our annual cost calculation. The amount approved by council was 25% less, $30,203. As was pointed out at the last council meeting, OCHS is being asked to do more while being paid less. The information you received from us last week also included a recap of the discussions with city administration going back to the service agreement and fee requests submitted in August. A meeting was held Thursday morning in hopes of finalizing the contract language. We discussed two main sections that still need resolution, as we are not comfortable signing an agreement containing items that we cannot currently provide for. One is to have OCHS issue pet licenses, and the other is to have the city appoint a member to our board of directors. We have researched what is required to allow OCHS to issue pet licenses. We will be looking to the city as well as other municipalities to authorize OCHS to become a collecting agent for them through a future resolution. Until then, we are able to make the submission of the completed license application and fee to the adopter's municipality part of the pet adoption process. At Thursday's meeting, the mayor said the desire for an appointed board member was to improve communication between OCHS and the city. To address this, OCHS would agree to appoint a current board member to serve as a liaison with the city. We appreciate everyone's time and effort in this process and for the chance to speak with you tonight. If there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them now.
Eileen?
Currently, what does OCHS do if someone comes in and they're retrieving a dog that had been lost in the city but is not licensed? Is that something you even ask them prior to releasing the dog?
I think I'm going to ask our director, Bria, to respond to that question because I don't want to give you wrong information.
No worries.
So currently, when someone comes to reclaim their pet, state law requires that they provide either proof of rabies or proof of a prepaid vaccination, and then we can release the dog. We have, through discussion in the last week, are going to start implementing that if the pet is not licensed, we will assist the family in filling out the application and send that to the city. Not taking money on behalf for the city, but making sure that that pet is licensed until we can do so ourselves.
Is it a simple matter of them simply going to City Hall, getting the license, and then coming back and getting the dog?
We could have them do that as well, but when it comes to the licensing, I would say majority of people coming to reclaim their pet haven't had their rabies shots, so we do have to have them prepay for that to get their dog to get the rabies, which they can't get the license unless they have that vaccine.
Okay. And then I had one other question for Zach, actually. I remember some of this came up last August when we initially were putting the budget together and we were looking at OCHS because we had gotten some correspondence from the shelter. And I remember you mentioned that there was a formula, Zach, and it was based on the population times the amount that they were requesting per resident. Does that ring a bell?
That's correct. Their original request to the city during the budget process was a per capita amount, and they had broken that further between animals surrendered or adopted or provided service through outside the city limits in the quote-unquote county, and then broken out by those in the city. So it was weighted based upon, I think, 52% of animals that statistically showed that came from Rhinelander residents.
And that's how we reached that $30,203 number. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'm going to make a point. We should be only talking about their presentation because, it's on the agenda as a discussion for the council. So council with the city's position should probably wait till that aspect. But unless you have a specific question of the representatives.
That was the only other question I had for the rep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for the presenters, or is there anybody else that wants to speak on your behalf or the Humane Society, Carla?
Again, I want to understand this was a presentation. This wasn't open. That was the first part of the program. So this was their presentation, unless they have somebody else.
Right, that's what I meant.
Presentation.
Is there anybody else who wants to present? Thank you, Carla. The last presentation we have is the magazine featuring Rhinelander. Is there somebody that's going to present on that? Thank you. If you could just say your name for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Tutzloff, and I'm here tonight to present to you the New North magazine. A group of us in Rhinelander got together, a group of creative folks, of which Tom Barnett was one, And we said, Rhinelander is a major city, really, in northern Wisconsin. I mean, it's the hub of the north, it's the county seat, and yet it does not have a magazine that features stories and goings-on in the city. So we all really volunteered our time, our efforts, and our creativity and created this magazine. There's each issue, there's going to be 5 issues per year. There's going to be winter, spring, summer, fall, and holiday. And if you page through it, I think everybody in this room has one, you'll see that there's stories on the history of Rhinelander, sports in Rhinelander, the arts and music scene, and interestingly enough, in this case, a philanthropic story about the Oneida County Humane Society. I'm an animal lover, and I wrote that story, and I'm happy to have done so. And it also, in the back pages, there's some stories about happenings in Rhinelander. It features a page on the lights of the North Woods, and then some. I think we featured a fishing tournament, and then it shows some other events that are coming up. So it's all about the community, and it's about positive things happening in the community. Rhinelander has a lot of creativity, a lot of things going on, and this magazine is really here to showcase that. And with all those stories, surrounding all those stories is beautiful photography, as definitely evidenced on the cover. And we're going to continue to do so. It's all advertiser paid for, and we'll continue also to do so. And so it's a benefit to the city. We see it as a huge benefit to the city. And honestly, the advertisers were very happy to participate. And the next issue will be our spring issue coming out in April, and it'll last April, May, and probably the beginning of June. And then our summer issue. And I'm anticipating to really even double the amount of advertisers that we have in this first issue. So very pleased. Channel 12 gave us a ton of coverage about it, and it's just been extremely well received everywhere we go. Does anybody have any questions or comments about it?
Anybody from the council? Very cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next on the list is meeting minutes. Approval of the January 11th, 2021 council meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from January 11th council meeting.
Barnett, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Ordinance's first reading, we have none. Ordinance second reading. Ordinance 2021-2, amending 2.01.07, Police and Fire Commission. There is, it's on page 11.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Attorney Sorensen.
Yes, it's just for everybody's edification. The mayor called me this morning, and he's set up a meeting with the chair of the Police and Fire Commission, who asked if we could hold this for another meeting, the next meeting, because he had some things he wanted to discuss with the mayor and myself. And so I'm just letting the body know that that's the request that has been made, and the mayor has no problem with that, and frankly, I don't, because it just leaves in place the ordinance that we have right now.
Okay.
But it's up to you as a body. I'm not trying to tell you. I'm just telling you what the mayor requested through me.
We just look for a motion to table this until next council meeting.
That works.
I'd entertain a motion for that.
Motion to table this item until the February 8th meeting.
Second.
Just as a point of information, you can make motions too, even though you're chairing it.
Sure. Motion by Holt and second by Tom Kelly. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Reports of boards, commissions, and committees. There's one report on here. It's a report of January 18, 2021 Police and Fire Commission. And I'm going to make a correction on there. It's the October 23rd, 2020 Police and Fire Commission meeting. And that is in the packet.
I will make a motion to approve the Police and Fire Commission from October, you just said it,
23rd.
23rd, 2020.
I will second the motion to accept the report as presented.
How many of us were there at this meeting that were approving their minutes? I mean, is that?
I don't have an answer for that.
We're not approving their minutes, we're accepting them.
Okay.
Put on file, that's all.
All right,
Just so everybody understands that we're accepting their report and put on file.
okay.
I'm sorry, Tom, you misunderstood. Glad you brought that up.
Okay.
We do have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Moving forward to introduction of new business, consider approval of the 2022 to 2027 capital improvement plan, and I'm going to let Zach discuss some of this.
On page 12 in your packets this evening is the proposed 5-year capital plan as it stands as of last Friday. This most revised version comes as after about 6-7 months of staff and internal discussion with our current engineering folks, Town and Country, regarding what our priorities are over the course of the next 5 years. The 2021 items, I will note, are somewhat still in question related to really the achievability of still letting a contract for the Timber Drive project at this stage in the year, as well as an item you approved at the last council meeting, and that was to pursue a DNR stewardship grant for the recreational trail along that corridor. And there's some concern about executing that project in advance of actually receiving an award essentially from the DNR, which was expected in about September timeframe in the fall. So that's something that we'll have to continue to consider, but at least for purposes of tonight, we're really looking forward 2022 and 2023 and beyond to identify generally what those priorities are. So this comes as a result not only of the street surface ratings that the state Whistler DOT database has, but all the underground utility infrastructure and the current state of affairs or condition that infrastructure is in. One thing I'll also note in sort of kind of a cascading decision or action that'll come as a result of your adoption of the proposed capital plan is some televising of that underground infrastructure to really understand, is it a lower or higher priority, or do we have it in the right order of priority based upon this proposed plan? And then also you'll see on our agenda tonight on item C is regarding design services for 2022, or even really it should be 2023 capital projects, so we can get those designs underway for in order for us to pursue funding sources, potentially if there's a federal stimulus that comes our way, that type of thing. But just so you know, this is sort of one step in the process, and staff can certainly weigh in on any questions you might have regarding the priority of things and why you see certain things in certain years versus other years. And then the other point I'll make in there is still our ongoing desire to pursue treatment options for wells 7 and 8. We don't have a year associated with that. And the idea would be that annually we would adopt the capital improvement plan so that at least we've got a refreshed order of priority, knowing that these things may get reordered between now and when the actual construction might happen. Happy to answer any questions, though, if there are any.
Gerald?
Gerald, you have to unmute yourself, unless Tara can unmute you. There we go.
What happened in 2022 on the list?
So 2022, at this point, we can, if we get the design moved up and we find a funding source, we can move those around in the year. But at this point, we don't have any any projects associated with a funding source in 2022. There are some DOT dollars, and I look to our city engineering resource, Mark, here, if there's anything in 2022 that's not currently listed here, but there's a couple of DOT grants that will sunset in 2022, one of which is some mill and overlay activity. But these are really the more capital intensive reconstruction projects versus just taking the street surface or any curb and gutter work. So that would be my answer as to why you don't see anything listed for 2022. I would say if a federal stimulus happens and that comes out of Washington, we want to have those designs ready so we can essentially, they're shovel ready at that point and then become eligible for stimulus funding. Presently, if we had a stimulus award, we're not going to be eligible for any projects because we don't have any designs really on the shelf. So I don't know, Mark, if there's anything you want to add in that.
I would just say for the resurfacing projects, Zach is right, there's DOT funding available for those, and the city has already secured $450,000 for Timber Drive. But the discussion about the path needs to be had, whether you want to undertake the Timber Drive construction prior to the path construction, if that funding is available through the stewardship grant. As far as the utility work on the capital improvement plan, how the funding generally goes, we have supplied everything on this list for utility construction. We've provided a ITA. ITA is an intent to apply. That just gives a DNR notice for Clean Water Fund and Safe Drinking Water Fund that the city intends to apply for funding for those. How that would work for 2022, you need to have plans submitted for approval by June 30th of next year. At this point, the city doesn't have any solid plans working. There's been no survey. There's been no projects undertaken. To meet that schedule, that deadline, you would typically have to start the year before. So a 2020 survey schedule for 2020-21 design in the winter, and then plan submittal in 21 for 22 construction. That's why these utility projects are pushed off to 2023.
Anybody else have comments on this? You consider a motion for this?
Holt, I will make a motion to adopt the capital improvement plan for 2022 through 2027.
Mikulowski, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from anyone? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Item 11B, update on LRIP Boyce Drive substitution. This would be Zach as well.
So the city received funding associated with, through the local road improvement program for reconstruction of Boyce Drive. There remains a surplus in the project closeout. It's not a substantial amount of money, but it's something to actually address probably a block or two of a mill and overlay. So I want to make everyone aware that we're going to be bringing likely a substitution project before you. City staff and I are still determining what that priority is at this point. That project would have to occur and be billed and closed out by June, the end of June. So at this point, just putting a notice that that's coming before you. It likely tag along another mill and overlay project that we're planning this year, because on a standalone basis, it's difficult to let a bid and secure a contractor for a real narrow scope of work to be cost effective for the city. So just putting you on notice for that. It's likely to follow one of the previous items that you just saw on that list, where we have mill and overlay projects planned this year. Unless there's any questions, happy to entertain you, just putting you on notice that that's happening.
Seeing no questions, we'll move on with 11C. Discuss soliciting proposals for design services of 2022 capital projects.
Happy to take this one again. It's probably 2023 is maybe what I should have had listed on the agenda, but essentially, as we just heard, the capital projects that we are pursuing in 2023 are currently undesigned. While we have some engineers' estimates, we don't currently have shovel-ready designs. So if we wanted to accelerate that, we could pursue that direction. Now, there is some question about funding source for design services. Generally, the city's practice is to set up an account for a project, and then we start accruing costs for that. Now, sometimes some funding sources do not allow you to retroactively pay yourself back for design costs, so that'll be a consideration before you. But I've heard it's been discussed at previous meetings that we haven't gone for a request for proposal for our design services, really engineering services, for a while. And in fact, there was a notification we received associated with the Stevens Street project that we need to competitively pursue those quotes or design services. So the specific idea tonight is to get your consensus. If you wish to make this a priority for us, we'll then draft a request for proposals or a statement of qualifications, and then pursue a cost. But at this point, now that we have the scope figured out, the idea would be to actually ask for or to solicit engineer proposals and associated costs thereof to design the projects that you just approved. Again, happy to take your questions, but that's the idea, or the thought is there was a desire and requirement, frankly, for us to take on this task.
So what would a motion look like in this to move forward with what you need, Zach?
A direction to city staff to draft the request for proposals to design the 2023 projects.
Barnett, I'll make a motion to direct city staff to draw up the proper forms to get proposals from the engineers.
Holt, second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Does this involve any kind of financial expense at this point, or not?
Not at this time. It would just be internal city staff time. I will say too that we would also publish the request for proposals. It was probably implied, but I just want to make that statement as clear. We're not going to bring it back to you again, and then we'll just publish it. And then once we get the results, we'll bring back the results to you for further consideration. At which point you'll be presented with probably an opportunity to award a contract, and then of course there'll be the financial commitment at that time.
Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Tom, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we would be able to move down to 12B and discuss the agreement with the Humane Society, so these good folks don't have to sit through all this boring stuff.
You want to make a motion to
I would make a
adjust-
motion to move to 12B to discuss the service agreement with Oneida County Humane Society. And I think I agree with Mr. Freudenberg that we should just discuss this and settle it in open session.
We have a motion
I'll second that.
and a second by Andrew Larson. Any discussion before we take a vote on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
We'll move to 12B. Right underneath C, under 11C. 2021 Services Agreement with Oneida County Humane Society.
Barnett, I would like to make a motion to accept the 2021 service agreement with the Oneida County Humane Society with the exception of E on page 3 or page 22 of our packet, striking all the verbiage up to the point to shall give no less than one presentation annually to the Common Council as to the activities of the OCHS.
Larson, second.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Tom?
So we're saying that there's not going to be a representative from the city council?
Correct.
And that's a good idea. Okay.
Clarification, all the other parts that we've already crossed out are still crossed out in the one you have in front of you. That does, so for the Humane Society, that deals with all the licensing stuff. We took all the licensing stuff out. And what Mr. Barnett is talking about right now is removing the representative on your board. Otherwise, it's the contract, as you discussed last Thursday with with the mayor and his assistant.
So this is the written, it's what's in the packet and what's been crossed out already, plus what Tom Barnett made for his motion to remove, is my understanding. Tom Kelly.
I would just like to ask Carla if she has any more comments, or Bria has any more comments on this before we vote.
Well, Tom, you have to first of all ask the board if they'll suspend the rules, because under the rules, people are not allowed to speak during the debate by the council. If you suspend the rules, then you can allow somebody else to speak. I mean, I already told 2 other groups tonight that you don't have rights to talk after the initial presentation.
Okay.
Obviously, the council can suspend rules to do that, but you can't just willy-nilly ask them to come up and talk.
Wow. All right, I'll make that motion to suspend the rules to give the Humane Society a chance for their input.
Anderson, second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules to allow a representative from the Humane Society to comment again. Any further discussion before we vote on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed, right.
Ayes have it.
Okay.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Just to clarify, Mr. Sorensen, so
Yeah,
that...
just first of all, identify yourself for the record.
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. My name is Karen Matchlet. I'm on the Board of Directors for the Humane Society, and I've been the point person sort of for looking into the licensing that we are able to accomplish. And just as point of clarification, since the contract that was in the packet included items 2 and 3 that pertain to licensing, is it your intent that you are including those with the final contract? You have not changed those since we last met.
The way the contract reads at this time, paragraph number 1 is payment for services. Paragraph number 2 is services included. Those services do not, in that paragraph, include licensing. Paragraph 3 is the authority. Paragraph 4 is the term. Paragraph 5 is the integration. Paragraph 6, we've taken out the word enforce, and it says support animal regulation laws. It says that the OCHS will diligently promote the awareness and so on and so forth. We remove the words through duly appointed legally qualified agents and officers. In paragraph B1, we've taken out the word, it said you will diligently educate rather than issue and process education pursuant to applications, which just simply says you'll tell people that applications are available at the city hall or at the county or the town in which they live. Paragraph 2 says that you will not release an animal to an owner who resides until the city will coordinate, and that's the coordination of licensing. That was what was talked about by your director, who said that we would tell people that they would need to have a license, and that she would cooperate in the fact of communicating that information. Paragraph 3 is basically you'll keep records of who's come. You always do that, so that's not a problem. Paragraph 4 says you'll maintain those records, exactly what you're doing. Paragraph 5, 6, and 7, which were the new ideas that were put out with regard to asking you to collect the funds or asking you to work with the licensing and the contribution back to you, have been removed from the contract. And the insurance stayed the same, and that's paragraph C. D, you have to abide by any new rules that might be passed by the state or by the county. E is just the removal of the concept that we would have a board member, or the city would appoint a board member, and simply has the ability for you to make a presentation in open communication. You've already indicated that you're suggesting, and that's your choice, to have a representative come to the council, and we like that idea, and the liaison, as long as that person, that we have a communication source. Otherwise, the contract's just as it was printed.
Okay, can I address items 2 and 3, please?
Which 2 and 3?
Under the licenses.
Under 6B.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, thank you. As it's written in in the copy that I have, and I'm sorry, it's difficult
I will read you
sometimes to
2 and
hear.
3. 2 says that you will not release an unlicensed animal to an owner that resides within the city until coordination of the license has occurred with the appropriate copies of the license distributed to the new owner in the city and the license tag delivered to the animal owner.
Yes. The problem where it says appropriate copies of the license distributed to the owner and city and a license tag delivered to the animal owner is not the process that we can provide at this
That could be
point in time.
removed. We have no problem with that. If you'll amend the ordinance, we don't have any problem with that.
But I would just say is, we're not,
No, we're leaving the coordination. but
that
not
language
the
doesn't
specifics.
expect OCHS to do it, but we can address that.
The concept there, and again, I'll repeat myself, the concept is not that you have any service other than notifying the city, which is exactly what I think Bria, is that your name, said you would do.
Yes. Okay, as long as that is...
That's the understanding, correct.
That is not our expectation, as well as in number 3, keeping full and accurate records for all persons whose licenses have been issued, and the city shall provide access to its licensing software where appropriate. Again, we can keep copies of the applications that we send forth with adopted animals. However, we do not have the licensing authority.
We're not asking you to license. All we're asking you to do is keep records. If a dog or a cat or a turtle comes in that's licensed, you write it down that it's licensed. You provide that information to us. We're giving you access. If you need to check and see if it is licensed, by checking our software, we're going to give you access to those records. We're not asking you to license anything.
Okay. I don't know how picky we want to get, but the access to the licensing software is a whole nother issue that is not available at this time.
I'm saying that we'll make our licensing software information available so that you have access to it through the internet. You don't have to buy any programs. Just if you want information, we can send it to you. This is a cooperative effort.
I understand, and
we're not asking you to do anything new. You don't have to buy any software, you have to do anything. Please don't make it more than it is.
what is your definition of access to your software?
We'll give you access to our information. That's what the definition is. Our information is in our software. We'll give you access to it if you want it. If you don't want it, you don't have to take it.
Okay, if that means that we can call you and get information from that, that's not what that reads to me.
Well, then I'll make sure it reads exactly the way you want it.
Okay.
If you want it says that we'll provide information to you, we'll say that. The concept is exactly as I told you. The concept is that you don't have to buy any
Right.
software, that will make information available to you. We're not going to, right now, I'll stop right now, because we're not going to negotiate this contract. If you want to change some of the terms, that's your right. We can disapprove the contract as we vote on it tonight, and if you do disapprove of it, you can bring it back, and we'll look at your objections. But we're not going to get into a debate tonight. Please, thank you.
We have a motion and a second on the floor for this. Any further comments by the council members? I would ask for a roll call vote on this, Teresa.
Are we,
We're voting on the motion as amended.
okay.
Okay, hang on a second.
And
So that,
basically, we're saying we're gonna vote on it the way it is here with the amendment. And
Correct.
let them come back if they don't like it.
That's correct.
go ahead, Teresa.
Carrie Mikulowski.
Aye.
David Holt.
Aye.
Eileen Daniel.
Aye.
Ryan Rossing.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Andrew Larson.
Aye.
Thomas Kelly.
Aye.
Ayes have it. That's approved. Service agreement is approved.
So for the record, the next item on the agenda, which we didn't take out of place, but so that everyone understands, and so you don't have to worry about us going into closed session to talk about something we already voted on. There's no reason to go into closed session. We will not be going into closed session. As far as that service agreement is concerned, that's done with tonight. It won't be brought up again tonight, so you can feel very free to leave.
Thank you, Attorney Sorensen.
You can stay too. We got lots of inciting things to talk about. Snow removal.
Back up to the introduction of new business, where we left off with item 11D, as in David.
I want to say one thing before you leave, because this is important. The chief and I talked a little bit about this beforehand. The state mandate is still in force, and the state mandate still says you're supposed to be 6 feet apart. We weren't going to create disruption tonight. We talked about it. But please understand that we do have the meetings on Zoom, and we're going to have to, as a city, in compliance with the state law, enforce, I mean, you can sit together if you're a family group, but we're going to have to enforce the 6 feet rule, which may mean we may have to limit the number of people that can be in council meetings, and we may, have groups stay out and come back and stuff. I just want people to know that. And we purposely, for those people that want to criticize us for not maintaining the mandate tonight, we did that in consideration the fact that we hadn't told the public in advance. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ryan.
That's okay, thank you. Back up to item D. Sable Mechanical Coon Street Lift Station Pay Request Number 1, amount of $154,672.35. Jim, do you want to talk about this? Or, I'm sorry, Mark? Mark, you're already going up there.
I can talk about these two pay requests at the same time.
Sure,
They
that's
go
fine.
hand in hand. The first pay request would be for the $154,000 and change. That's before they actually started any work, and it's basically for equipment. Equipment and bonds. They had their control panels ordered, purchased, valves, pumps, the whole works. Typical of a project like this, when they order equipment, you'd pay for that even before it gets installed. That'd be for the first pay request. The second pay request came after the installation of the equipment. So the second pay request for the $55,000 was the installation of the pumps, the valves, the valve vault at the Spring Lake lift station. So that work is complete. There's some finish work to do in the spring, some topsoiling, some grading, and work of that nature. But these two pay requests combined include all the equipment to date that has been ordered and purchased, that the contractor has on hand, the majority of which has been installed at the Spring Lake lift station.
Anybody have questions for Mark?
I will make a motion to approve the pay request for Coon Street Lift Station, number one, in the amount of $154,000, $672.35.
Larson, second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Jim, does this all look good too to you? Yes. All right, Jim says yes. Would you please call roll on this, Teresa?
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Andrew Larson.
Aye.
Carrie Mikulowski.
Aye.
Thomas Kelly.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
David Holt.
Aye.
Eileen Daniel.
Aye.
Ryan Rossing.
Aye. The ayes have it. Second, Sable Mechanical Spring Lake Lift Station pay request number 2 in the amount of $55,410.65. And Mark talked about that as well already, so entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the Spring Lake Lift Station pay request number 2 in the amount of $55,410.65.
Mikulowski, second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Teresa, would you please call roll on this as well?
Andrew Larson.
Aye.
Thomas Kelly.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
Eileen Daniel.
Aye.
David Holt.
Aye.
Ryan Rossing.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Carrie Mikulowski.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Moving on to item F, referral from Alder Tom Barnett, update on winter snow removal, including downtown. I think Zach has some information on this.
And I think is Dan here tonight? Wants to provide an update. Alder Barnett made the referral, so maybe he wants to speak to just what he wants to have reported tonight.
Just had a snow, we moved snow a couple times this last couple weeks, and we still probably would need some business owners to push out snow. There's still some. We just pulled snow last night. I gave them 24-hour notice to pull snow, as we call it. We moved the snow from the curbside, and there were still about 8, 9 business owners that hadn't pushed out yet. So now tomorrow morning I'm gonna have to go back. Hopefully they pushed it out and spent more overtime to be able to do those 8 that haven't pushed out to the street.
That's actually what I was going to be asking you about, because I know that I have been pushing my snow out as well as a few of my neighbors in front of my business, and the very next morning it's gone. It's like magic. But I did notice that there's a lot of business owners that are not doing that, and I've tried to explain to them several times. So I'm wondering if there's a way to get them to understand, because the couple people that I have talked to stated that the year before they were doing that and they got in trouble for it, and now they're telling them to do it. They're all very confused.
Okay. Yeah, it's changed this year because we were helping out last year with our own equipment, and we were getting the walk path out of the way, but then the little areas, they were pushing out. But but this year, of course, we went back to our original policy, which stated that what business owners are pushing out the curb line and push over the curb, actually. So it may take some time still. Maybe a few more talks with DRI meetings. That's the only thing I can suggest at this point. Any other ideas, Zach?
I was just going to say, if there was a report on citation activity, that might be the other question, to the extent that on certain corridors or where they've been problematic in the past, if there was any citation activity that you wanted, or Chief Williams maybe wanted to talk about.
He is.
Yeah. anyway.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is good for everybody involved. It's better for the city crew, and it's better for the businesses to have that stuff disappear, like Tom Barnett said. So I don't know how much education was done, but if we have those places identified, if we can let them know. And yeah, I'm not sure about citation type of stuff with the chiefs, but anybody have an answer on flyers or mailings?
I think I'll, I'm the liaison between the city and DRI, so I attend all their meetings. So I will just, maybe I'll put together something to present at DRI about the snow removal to maybe make it so that they understand the concept that we're going for here.
Sure.
I guess we also have, I think there was 8 to 10, I believe, this time around. I think 2 of them are for sale. So now we will have to get a hold of the real estate agents. Are they liable, or I'm not sure how we're going to go about this process.
No, I would say
The property owner remains
yeah, I would say no.
responsible. But all of our charges for service get levied back to or assessed to the property owner, provided that we're following the procedures to do so.
Yeah, so somehow we'll have to reach out to them, I guess, because I know there's a couple businesses that are for sale that they haven't done it at all.
My only other question is we as a council decided that this year we were going to try some of that brine solution. How has that been working out?
Okay, Oneida County is looking to their facility just.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so I kind of held them back. They're getting things straight down at this point. So I'm still communicating with them. It's right now it's all talk.
Right.
What I'm putting together is once they get that built, they've already agreed upon selling us brine. So at that point, I'm going to put some numbers together as far as our truck and buying a tank and spray bars and getting all those numbers together so we can present it to council to try to start that next year's process.
Okay.
And we may just start out with the mains to start out with. And we also could contract it out. Oneida County we could contract it out with them too. So we could have a couple of different situations we could look at. But ideally, we would like to be going to brine in the future. So as soon as they built that facility over there, we'll keep talking at that point. So I'm just kind of waiting for that to happen.
Okay.
And right now we're putting together all the numbers for the trucks and everything. And then we'll come to council probably later this year, probably with those numbers and direction.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
Request from Alder Daniel on update with downtown camera system. Eileen?
Yeah, ever since, I want to say the last time it was brought up at council was probably back in last August or September. And at that point, we had asked Tara to look into the cost of putting up cameras, the viability of it. And I know, having talked to Zach and I think Alderperson Barnett, they had taken a look at some places downtown where it would be viable. And I'm just wondering where we are with that, if that is still something that's in the budget for this year or how it looks going forward.
Sure. Thanks for the question. And it's probably a classic case of maybe not bringing the full communication back to the full council on this. So we did meet out at that location on the corner of Brown and Davenport, I believe, intersection to talk a bit more broadly about the goals and what might be achieved by the program. Where we left it was a matter of incorporation with the IT consolidation project, which is being considered amongst the city's 2021 borrowing. So at this point, we don't have any formal scope or plan drawn up. It was also left with the liaison, again, in reference to the importance of that relationship with DRI, to really understand what their member objectives are. If there's areas of concern from a surveillance perspective, what are the chief's goals within the police department for surveillance? You know, if we're going to capture that footage, is it going to serve a public benefit, public safety, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there was a couple of to-dos left on each other's part to do some outreach, again, in the neighborhood, and then for us to consider what that scope might look like alongside the city's borrowing for 2021, and then for you all to understand how that impacts the whole priority within the IT consolidation, if it's as much of a priority as other needs, so that way you can all have that discussion amongst each other. It's just got to follow up too.
Eileen.
Just wondering if any research was done into camera systems and so we have a baseline cost?
I am seeing the head nod no from Tara in the back. It doesn't look like we've done any of that right now. We did, she did look at the capabilities of the light poles and the extent that we can run fiber or Wi-Fi or some sort of internet connectivity within them. So it's going to really come down to what the pole technology or the pole can handle for what it needs for technology, if it's just power or if it's internet, those types of things.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, Tara's saying the whole technical capabilities around the surveillance and the footage that we capture, where it's stored and what our current limitations are. Our current storage or server configuration wouldn't handle the 24/7 retention size of doing that surveillance. So it's probably figuring out if it's going to record on motion or if it's going to be 24/7, those types of things. But if you have suggestions or municipalities where you see a similar program you'd like us to look at that you like, that would be another good starting point if you are doing independent research on that.
Yeah, I know the Northwoods Connect had mentioned with the lease agreement thing doing the park area of Hodag Park, offering that. It might be something that would benefit us maybe down the road to have them offer that for downtown like they did the park or are going to do on the park. That might help things as well as far as putting it in different locations. So anybody else? Okay, update on CDBG close ADA improvements on city property, and this is Zach that's going to talk about some of this.
Just gonna have Tara provide the ability for me to share the screen here, so I could just flash up briefly where we've arrived in this CDBG close project. So Tara, do you know if I can do that yet? Share screen. It says, oh, there we go. Great. Thank you. There it is. So some of this is still in development, even as of yesterday, last night, when we were still finding the county hadn't necessarily gotten all of its pieces together, but really pleased to have worked with the county over the last 3 months on this particular project. What you're seeing on the screen right now is not been filled in with some of the details, but I just wanted to give you a high level of what was considered and included as part of the county's CDBG close application process. There were $700,000 worth of projects, and the county board had decided that it wanted to submit really one major overarching application in which it prioritized ADA accommodations within the county and various municipalities. So it's kind of hard to read, but you can see generally the scope of the various improvements around the county. The last couple of items on this list speak to Rhinelander. And so based upon a formula they use to allocate $200,000 of the $700,000 is being proposed to be used within city projects or city facilities. So specific to that, I'll go back to the other slide here and just walk you through them. I want to thank Dan and Jeremy for working with me on getting contractor estimates. Those are difficult sometimes, especially if contractors don't know the viability of the potential project. So at Hodag Park, we're going to, the picture on the bottom left, many of you are probably familiar with it. Currently it's the bathroom facility concessions building, and it doesn't have any real comfortable or safe accommodations for folks with mobility aids and those types of things. So getting basically the concrete walk around that building in relationship with in the upper left corner, which is the parking area. So that's one such improvement at Hodag Park. Pioneer Park, this one actually slide was amended, so I'll go skip that one for a minute. Art Start leases their building from the city, and this ramp is probably beyond its expected useful life, and in some cases there's been concerns safety concerns with it. So we incorporated the ramp there at Art Start. Obviously, post-pandemic, we hope that that building becomes, again, a destination for folks. Hodag Park piers, we saw in some of in the case of like Minocqua, they were thinking a little bit further than just your traditional ADA accommodations. So we proposed to replace some of the piers within Hodag Park with ADA accessible piers. So I see it's actually quite delayed. So maybe, sorry about that. Now it's telling me my internet connection is unstable. So another plug for the IT consolidation project if we're looking for other reasons why that's an important thing. Let me just see if I can keep going down here. Oh, looks like it's froze up. Okay. Just switch over here. All right, and I'll switch actually over to this one here. That's got the rest of it. And then quickly, the Pioneer Park improvements are just like the Hodag Park concession and restroom facility. Jeremy and his group did some remodeling of that, and obviously being adjacent to pickleball and the museum there, it's got great utilization. So adding an ADA compliant walk in that area. Oops, I'm a little ahead of myself here. Boyce Drive, we talked about that earlier tonight, but there's currently no sidewalk connecting the dog park with kind of the rest of the community, so we did get some costs associated with adding a walk from Kemp Street up to the dog park. It may be on the other side of the street, but at this point it's being proposed on the east side. And then again at Hodag Park, we added some justification. The DOA didn't necessarily seem too excited about, it's still behind, sorry about that. Didn't seem too excited to, let's stop the share here, to adding improvements such as the piers, but we figured if Minocqua can ask for it, we should too, or could too. That's behind. Boyce Drive, did everybody see the Boyce Drive area? I'm sure you're familiar with that, okay. And then the Hodag Park ADA connector. So we're actually proposing to pulverize and then replace or reinstall the walk in Hodag Park. And so that's about a $60,000 item. And then a small area around the beach house, again, lacking any ADA accommodations there. And then we pulled in some of the past planning efforts. I made my way through the Hodag Park plans, and there's a number of references to ADA compliance and the improvements there. And so I think in furtherance of trying to convince the state of why we should be doing these things, that kind of fortuitous thing is these things were already contemplated in the previous planning that the city had invested in 2018 and 19 as it went through some park planning exercises. So we brought that in there and referenced it just so it shows that it's not kind of out of left field and something the city wants to spend a bunch of money on. No, they were actually identified improvements. So that concludes that item. Happy to answer any questions. Again, it was specific to ADA improvements. We did think about trying to do some things here at City Hall, but I think when you start touching things, it becomes a much larger cost item. So these were standalone projects that we figured we could execute without a tremendous amount of effort.
Questions for Zach?
The application is due the 31st, and we hope to get some form of response. I don't know. They're not giving us a time frame, but I would expect probably March, April would be the time frame. I think Eileen's got a question.
Eileen, I'm sorry. You're
Okay.
up there. You're up there. I see you.
I know, it's always me. Wondering, I just want to confirm, Zach, that those ADA changes to Pioneer and Hodag Park are in compliance with the park plans. I think you kind of glossed over it, so I
Sure.
just wanted to confirm that it is, they meld well with the park improvements, correct?
Correct. That's a really good point. I probably should have stressed that further, given there's history on kind of where things go and how they get implemented. Yeah, so they're really incidental to the park projects. The walks within Hodag Park, wouldn't necessarily be implemented until we had some understanding of what the priorities were, especially if there's a performance stage or something installed in Hodag. We want to make sure we're not placing those where the construction activity might occur. The other thing is we have 2 years once date of award happens for us to spend down those funds. So the nice thing is we've got a bit of time if we're going to pursue a parks project to be able to accomplish that. And then the Pioneer Park one, that's really just sidewalk around the restroom concession area, pretty contained to that site.
So if we get those funds and then we change part of the park plans, and so if the plans change slightly, are we still able to use those funds as long as they're being used for ADA compliance?
Yeah, I doubt that we would be able to take the Hodag Park recreational trail and, let's say, spend it on XYZ priority, but it would have to be spent associated with that. Really, the risk is you jeopardize being able to spend the money that you intended to use. You just can't change the scope and say, well, just kidding, I really want to do this with the money, build baseball fields. I mean, that certainly would be ineligible, obviously, because of the improvements. But generally, as long as it's associated with that specific purpose. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Moving forward with I, consider resolution 2021-4, sulfide mining. We had a presentation earlier at the beginning of the meeting.
I'm just going to go ahead and make a motion to accept resolution 2021-4 on sulfide mining.
Barnett, second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. I guess the one thing that I would say about this is that this has really been more public at this meeting. We might have heard about this and seen some emails and stuff sent to us, but I'm concerned that the 8 of us represent our constituents. And so for us 8 to make our own decision on this without hearing from our constituents at all, I think is not the way that we should proceed with this. So at least give them a chance to hear what was said in this meeting and reach out to us if that's what they want to do. Tom Barnett.
I agree with you, Ryan. We all have our own personal opinions about this and what we'd like to see happen. But when it comes right down to it, we are older people that represent our constituents, and some constituents may agree with us, some may not. And I think it's very important that their voices be heard through their older people, and their older people vote in the way that they want them to vote. I would hate for it to appear that we're making decisions like this for the entire city without consulting our constituents first.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Gerald.
I move that this resolution be tabled to the next meeting to invite people from the community to express their opinions on it.
I'll second that. Oh, go ahead, don't.
We have a motion by Gerald Anderson, second by Holt, to table this to the next meeting. Yeah, we did.
Understand what you're doing. You're tabling the motion to approve. That's what you're doing. The motion to approve is on the table right now. You're asking to take that motion that's on the table and you're going to move it to the next meeting. So just so you understand what you're voting on. Okay? And it's a non-debatable motion. So call the roll.
Yeah. Roll call vote on this, please. Teresa?
Thomas Kelly.
Aye.
Ryan Rossing.
Aye.
Eileen Daniel.
Aye.
Carrie Mikulowski.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
David Holt.
Aye.
Andrew Larson.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Yeah, I would encourage people of the public that are watching this to send an email or call and give their opinion on this to all of us. Introduction of unfinished business. Item A, update on administrator search. And I'm going to let Attorney Sorensen talk about this briefly.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work since the last meeting, and I have to basically highlight the work that's been done by Doreen, because she's really spearheaded the effort of getting the materials out and following through. Doreen and I and the mayor met with Henry Verkler, who's the representative of McMahon, and came up with a plan. We've implemented the plan. Right now we have 3 viable, well, perhaps 4 viable candidates. None of them have fully committed to saying that this is where they want to be, but they've all expressed very great interest. So what the next step will be to set up meetings here in Rhinelander with each of the individuals, so they can come meet and greet, so to speak, get to know you all. But more importantly, we're going to have an opportunity for them to kind of express the way they work with some of the staff present, so the department heads get a good feel. Plus, these people get to meet the department heads, get to know what the issues are in the community, get to know what our schools are like, get to know what our parks are like, those kind of things. So those 3 individuals, if they accept the opportunity, will come, and hopefully that'll be done within the next 2 to 3 weeks, because we're staying on our schedule of the March 1st date. Then you'll be provided with a recommendation, and you'll get to vote yay or nay on the recommendation, because under our ordinance, the mayor makes the recommendation, and then you can tell him he knows what he's doing or he doesn't. Yeah, so if there's any specific questions or concerns that you want addressed, please get them to us. The thing we're worrying most about at this point is making sure that we don't violate any open meeting laws or, those type of things. So we're being very cognizant about the way we handle these meetings. But you certainly will all be introduced to these individuals as soon as we're at liberty to introduce these individuals to you. The progress has been good, and it was not that difficult to get down to the top, and they are good candidates. I'll tell you that right now. They're good candidates. Yes, Tom.
Steve, is of those 3 or 4 people, is Zach included in that 3 or 4 that we're going to interview?
Yes, he applied. Yes,
Okay.
he's part of that group.
Okay.
He's the only one that can release the name. And he'll probably be angry because I did, but no. That's probably the worst kept secret in the city.
Yeah.
Anything else for Attorney Sorensen for questions on this? All right, thank you. Next item was the closed session, but we're not going to do that, so we have reached the end of our meeting. Is there any future agenda items that we have at this point for Teresa to add?
Could you go ahead and, just for the record, list out the future?
I will, yeah.
agenda?
I'll
Okay.
do that right after anybody else. If they have any other agenda items, then I'll read what we have on the list so far. None? We have action regarding finalization and adoption of the Hodag Park Master Plan, 2020 budget amendment, discuss a 1-year extension with Green Golf Partners for management of Northwood Golf, AT&T lease agreement, room tax agreements, preliminary 2021 municipal borrowing scope, capital asset and procurement policies, and review submissions from request for qualifications. That's for wells number 7 and 8 remediation. One more time, anything else for agenda? Then we are adjourned until February 8th, 2021.